My name is Brendon Stevens, and these are my takeaway points from the Digital Accountancy Show in London. The accounting landscape at the moment and how it is evolving, how AI is being adopted currently in accounting, and cybersecurity and how important it is in the industry at the moment. And then just general talks with people at the conference and what they are worried about and concerned with, and any upcoming new apps and add-ons which are coming out of the market, which was quite interesting.
Brendon, good to be sitting chatting with you. Welcome back to sunny South Africa.
Well, sure. I think London was pretty hot last week. I don't think I wore a jacket more than once.
You don't look like you were in London.
No, I think it was unusually warm.
Am I correct in assuming you got sunburns?
Yes, Monday, first day there. Thought I did a bit of work in the park. Didn't realize the reflective screen was giving me a good tanning session. So yeah, I came back first day a bit peachy.
You look relaxed and tanned. Good to have you back here in sunny South Africa. Bren's dying to hear about how the trip went. Maybe you can just kick us off with what the goals were heading out there.
So big thing going out was just to meet our current client base out in the UK. So we took about a week around that, and then we started in the Digital Accountancy Show in that week. It was great to meet up with the clients, hear what their views are. Obviously now coming out of the first bit of busy season from the year, and then obviously also touch base with some potential clients. I think there's a lot happening in the UK at the moment and globally. So I think people are excited and lots happening.
Can't wait to unpack it. There's a lot there in just that intro. Needless to say, it was a busy and productive trip.
Extremely busy, and I think just the Digital Accountancy Show itself was next level. We'd gone to Accountex last year in May, where obviously a lot of the similar vendors. We found that the Digital Accountancy Show didn't have as much depth in terms of the amount of vendors, but the breadth was much wider. So a lot more people within the accounting sphere. So everyone from the large accounting apps, platforms, down to financing, your credit APs, and then all the add-ons around that.
Interesting.
So yeah, a great opportunity.
And out of interest, are you attending these with clients of yours? Are you finding some of your clients there are attending the show as well, and you're there with them? Or is this kind of bespoke for you guys?
So we do meet up with some of the clients at the shows, but I think it is also great to see what is happening in the market itself. So I think what happens especially in the accounting world, whether it be the rollout of new AI or any updates on some of the major accounting software, that will roll through to the audit team within 6 to 12 months, and then our team needs to then obviously look at that. So I think it's quite important to make sure that our guys are sort of up to speed and have an idea of what's happening, so that we don't sort of shrug our shoulders when the client says we've used X, Y, Z program. We can say, yes, I've seen that, we know how it works, we have an idea, and it makes that process a lot easier.
Important to be in the trenches and the actual detail of the market you're in. That's great. So a strong mix of actual tech stacks, platforms being represented there, clients themselves, industry leaders, thought leadership. A lot to take out, but you've summarized 4 key takeaways for us.
Yes.
Where should we kick off? Should we tackle I
think the accounting industry as a whole, the current playing field. There was a great talk there.
Educate me.
I think it's been a bit of a sit back look from the last 10 years. So is the profession as a whole. So obviously the profession is basically just the people itself. So obviously they have quite a big focus on who's coming in the UK into the profession. So there has been a drop since 2010 was mentioned of a 56% decrease in the number of people actually starting their careers in studying accounting.
56% drop from
2010 to
wow.
today. Obviously there's been a bit of a pickup in the last probably 3-4 years, but I think that it was a stage where they had to work on the profession itself as a whole, and I think how it's being positioned in the market as a career of of choice.
Fascinating. And did they have were there any key takeouts as to what drove that drop out of interest?
I think the majority of it was the idea of that is a very labor intensive, a long journey to get there, and I think there may have been the idea that automation and stuff could replace accountants, etc. But I think it's now come to realize that the accountancy isn't just a narrow field, and it's actually quite a broad stepping stone almost into a business itself. So I think hence why I think in the last 3-4 years there has been a large sign up, and I think there has been a lot done by the regulators and industry bodies there to make it more appealing to, I think, the younger generation, where that is like including a lot more tech in the structure, and then I think making it a lot more streamlined as well. So I think that's where it's sort of going, where there's been the pickup.
In and of itself, to see that these bodies are actually able to have an impact on that decline, I find encouraging and fascinating all at the same time. So bravo to them. That's what has been. What does the future look like? What are some of the expectations?
So that's quite exciting. The actual accounting industry itself is growing very rapidly. So I think in the last 12 months, I think it was like almost 18% growth, I think that was mentioned in one of the talks. And the amount of practices, smaller practices are growing. So I think there is a lot of growth. I think it's just making sure that the people coming in match that growth, because I think there is a massive demand. I mean, the opportunities in London, I think just speaking in general to the people who are attending, there's just, compared to everywhere else, I think there's just a lot of energy and opportunities available.
Sure. And random question, do you have an indication on, is there enough workforce and capacity to support the opportunity in the UK right now with the labor force they have?
I think there's enough people, but I think at the right level might be the concern.
Okay.
So like having someone that has the knowledge and expertise at a audit senior level, there's probably a shortage. I think the first year, second year intake for audit, it probably is fine, but I think it's that expertise, whether it be as an audit senior or then as a ITA professional, because that's also a growing business, and a lot of the companies we spoke to, their ITA business is growing quite strongly. I think there's, from obviously a regulatory point of view, that's also quite important. So to support the audit side, that's your tech team, so looking at your internal audits and your IT controls. So yeah.
I suppose that's part of the job, is helping people understand. I think for a lot, like accountancy it's very broad.
Yes.
What's perceived as very broad and also extremely narrow.
Yeah.
And once you get into it and once you're exposed and with bodies doing a good education exercise, you realize how deep one can go in a specific vertical and how senior you can get.
Yes.
I suppose those things all feed into one another. But I suppose for the younger generation, that's an exciting prospect, that there's an industry where there's growth and there's depth and
yes. So there was a big thing about, obviously, quite a few talks touched on, obviously, the use of AI and how there's actually a whole rethink of what an accountant is and is expected of them. So I think that plays into it. So obviously, it's more using the tools available rather than massive amounts of debits and credits and number crunching, where I think there's been a big shift to that ability to analyze numbers, provide insight, etc. So I think there's definitely a shift there in the market for people as well.
Okay, it's a good interlead into the next point. If you're happy that we've covered the trend so far, it's a buzzword, an overtraded term.
Every conference.
Tell us about AI. If it is even possible to summarize AI as a point, what are some of your key takeouts there?
I think the discussion around AI is now maturing, where I think a year, 2 years ago, I think a lot of people had a lot of big ideas of what and thoughts of what AI could do in accounting, and the level it was going to do. I think one of the big things was there was a big push or big talking point of that it was going to do a lot of the menial ticking and bashing kind of stuff, which obviously it will be able to do so. But I think there's now been as it's matured, people are finding use cases for it. There will be a lot more large data crunching as well. So rather than just debits and credits or matching maybe, the actual research towards either accounting opinions, tax opinions, etc., where you have to look at lots and lots of case law, where you've got a few points of data from a client. This is the situation. Here are the cases that are on the topic. Do any of these pull through? So it's gone from yes, it will automate and do all the legwork to actually it's an amazing research tool. So I think as it's now developed, I think the topics are changing from what can it do, and it's going to revolutionize, to now I think we've had 2 or 3 years of that, and I think now people are launching products, and everyone can see the capability of AI. And I think the big thing, which was quite different in the talks, which were quite different this time, was how do you equip your people and your workforce to use AI. So I think that was a big mind shift or a talking point shift compared to previous conferences.
It sounds in general like there's a positive sentiment towards AI and its impact that it's going to have, as opposed to, is my CA going to be a Tesla robot that sits at a desk and works 24 hours a day? Which I think is a global movement in general and a positive one. As far as tech goes in AI and enabling people and their capability, I think that's a big part of what businesses are going to be tackling, and how they do that is a whole kettle of fish on its own. What is your guys' approach? What are you doing to future-proof your team from an AI standpoint?
So a lot of the talking points around AI were about getting your team using AI. So I think it's, instead of, I think maybe a year or two ago, it was a case of let's wait until someone rolls out part of our tech stack will have an AI built in and we will then use it. Whereas I think there's definitely a shift of just start using it. So I think Jason Stats was a great talk. He came over from the States. He had some amazing points on it, where it was just start using your ChatGPT for anything. It doesn't have to be almost accounting related, whether it be arranging meetings or planning a getaway, whatever it is. But I think it's now incorporating AI into doing stuff. So I think we've actually rolled something out now since we got back on Monday. We've got AI ideas for the week. So the guys, each week, everyone's going to put their idea on the board of what they've used AI for this week. It can be a recipe for banana bread. It can be how you want to now go about making a little picture on LinkedIn for a photo. But it's been very interesting. I think it just broadens your horizon for what you can do with AI. So I think that's what's been the thing at the moment, is everyone's sort of, it can do this and it can do that. And if you can't solve those two problems, for me, we'll wait until it can solve more. Whereas I think there's definitely a lot of people were saying that you need to embrace it, start problem solving again. So I think that's what's happened in the last 10, 15 years. I think with a lot of regulation, a lot of people's ability to problem solve was taken away from them, and they were told, you will wait, and this is the solution you have.
Fair enough.
So I find AI is not so much, it obviously is an amazing tool, but I think it's actually getting people to start problem solving again, coming up with ideas, how best to do this, rather than, okay, that is the solution we've done last year, we'll follow it last year. I think there's actually a mind shift from, okay, we're coming in, doing what we have to do, and it's now encouraging people within the business to start applying their minds and problem solving.
And that's a great tool to use for that. I had an interesting sit down with a leader of one of the one of the best creative agencies in the world. And he was saying, I asked him, how's AI shaping your world? Because everyone thinks you can now roll out a full TV advert, through ChatGPT. Spoiler alert, you can't. And he was saying, like, the most fundamental change AI's had to his world is how he interviews, which I just thought was so brilliant. Like, classic creative comment. Like, obviously you would be thought-provoking. And that's one of the biggest impacts it's had. He's changed the things that he's asking people in terms of their competence in an interview. And he says, like, the first 30 were horrific. It's like, I'm sorry, you can't work here if you're not competent or used to or enabled on ChatGPT or whatever the case is, which I thought was fascinating as an insight as a leader, as an insight for the youth. Like, if you are not finding yourself competent, if you can't ask a question on ChatGPT as easily as you can upload a TikTok video, that's going to hurt your job prospects.
An amazing point, because actually one of the talks they were saying where they've actually had use of AI in these accounting firms is they've put it into their job application that we encourage the use of, and she said that people have been submitted their resumes and stuff were made by ChatGPT, but I think she said you can see where someone has just gone and said, do me a resume, this is my thing. And you can see where people have actually made the effort and those questions and actually crafted it. So you can see someone who's just sort of plugged it in, she says, and you can see the person who really has added their own thoughts and values to it, and then is well versed in using it. So obviously,
the prompt kings and queens of the world.
There we go. I think that's where we would like to get to in our firms, the guys that have those who are upskilled, who ask the right questions and prompts for it, and also then have the ability to apply it and to their problems. Like one person is using it to do their investments. They said they have no idea.
Proceed with caution.
But obviously it's one of those things where she said it looks at a massive amount of data and can sort of give you, obviously there's a massive caveat, but she says it just, besides just going and sort of seeing what's on the news and going for it, having that large amount of data, just another data point, and I think it's just amazing to see what people are able to do with it.
One of the other things he mentioned, and it's so true, he said it's important for people to enjoy the free access they have to the largest computer-powered investment in the history of all time.
Yes.
For free. It's like you are getting access to the largest computing power the world has to offer right now, for free or for very little money.
Yes.
Enjoy that while it lasts. Imagine having access to the entire investment banking force of, like, whoever, a big bank, and being able to ask them a question. It's like you have the equivalent in, and then you can apply that to any vertical. Imagine you had all the creative minds of Ogilvy in one room. You could ask them a question. You've been given that for like $20 a month at the moment.
Exactly.
And you don't necessarily realize it. Governance on AI, was that a topic?
So that was quite interesting. So Jason Statz, he's quite a big name in accounting and from the States, and he was saying because of the controls around ChatGPT already, you probably actually don't need a framework, because obviously you are governed by your own independence, etc. So if you apply your current independence rules, etc., and not sharing private information, which you wouldn't do anyway, ChatGPT is extremely secure, especially the paid version. So you probably don't need a lot of guys are saying you don't need a framework.
You started this with AI, and the conversation and the application has matured.
Yes.
And I think this is a great example of that, because that was, particularly in this profession, major concern.
Everyone loves a bit of a policy. Let's get a policy on the policy. Yeah. But I think I have seen one or two policies out there.
Policies.
And one of them for the AI policy was make sure that you treat the AI with respect. And we're worried about a bit of an uprising maybe.
Yeah.
So and I think but there are some amazing tech. We met some guys that were doing a AI bank reconciliation, which is the first real application I've seen. where they match bank entries from bank to accounting software using a probability matching the number versus the date versus the subscription. And then, but the thing with it that he said was where it actually learns, obviously looks at the last 6 months bank statements, plus once it matches one, it removes that from the list and then reruns its little thing again. And then one that was maybe a 75% match, because now the 100% match is gone, it jumps up to 95%. And it runs that through the whole list. And instead of, at the end of the day, you having to review as an accountant maybe 100 entries that are so similar, you need a judgment call, you're reviewing 4 or 5.
Wow.
So like that's the first real, what I've seen, besides like an analytic tool, which I think if you were good enough at Excel before, you probably could have done with your color grading and stuff. So besides that, I think
that is exciting.
It's exciting. It's just nice to see it start. And then obviously there's the note-taking tools. So they launched, I think Vinyl was one of them at the accountancy show. So I think you can see it starting to, the rollout's coming. And I think now it's okay. So instead of rushing to market with, I think, an AI, I think when people do launch an AI, I think people come with it with they examine it very carefully and see, is it actually going to add value? Is it going to be something I'm going to use? Or is it just AI for the sake of AI?
It's real benchmarks now.
Yeah.
Like you say, it's matured. And that's almost my takeout from this whole point is AI has matured to the point that it can be leveraged, should be leveraged.
And if you don't, you're behind.
At your own peril.
Yeah.
Awesome. Fascinating. Cyber.
Yeah, so there was a good talk, I think John Toon ran on day 2, I think it was, on just cyber. I think cybersecurity. I think in the past it's been like a good to have. There's been no real legislation towards it. But he was saying there's obviously massive loss of revenue just in like the data that's being stolen and stuff. So through data leaks, so there's a very impressive number he put up on the screen as he was talking. This thing was this. He says that's just the
real-time updates of how
much is being lost. So I think when you see it in a number, you're like, wow. So it's one of those things where it might not be you or your clients at the moment, but if you don't take precautions, it looks like it's bound to happen, kind of thing.
Sure.
So I think that is one of the big things. And I think also just it's the same as similar to AI. It's evolving. So I think you you've used a lot of these Microsoft projects and a lot of things where it tells you to change your password every 5 minutes. And he's saying that there's actually information coming out that's actually less secure because people are just making it
posted note password 7,000
7,001 and then 7,002. So it isn't actually making your systems any more secure. So I think it's like that.
That's a usable takeout.
A usable takeout, and it's also like that evolving. That it's evolving. And you were saying like some insurers require cyber essentials to be used, either part of their risk assessment process of the firm or a requirement. So interesting to see that move now coming in cyber.
How much do you think it will shape in the immediate future?
I think it's not going to be an earth-shattering move, but I think it's one of those things I think you sort of ignore at your peril. Because it's one of those things that's fine until it's not fine. Because you'll get away until you have a cyber issue. And then if it's a large cyber issue and you come to work one day and nothing, you've got no access to emails, servers, etc., then it's big. So I think it's one of those things that it's not big until it's massive. And it is.
Do you guys provide consultancy on that? Is that a
definitely? So the teams to help on that. Obviously, we've got a specialized ITA team that helps the audit teams with obviously the sort of the cyber side, as well as also cyber testing.
The reason I asked that, I think for a lot of people, when you think about cyber security, it's so big.
Yeah.
And you almost want to be able to ask someone, tell me why and where I'm weak.
Yeah.
Tell me how I can be cyber secure. Like I want someone to validate I'm cyber secure. Can we have a conversation? I think it's good for people to know that there's particularly when it sits in a firm such as this one,
Yeah.
that you can reach out to someone to have that validation backed by that level of trust is, I'd be really surprised to not see that engagement increase substantially over the next couple of years.
So personally, I've seen it in South Africa, the cyber and IT side of things. I think it's probably pushed a lot by the regulator as well, with definitely a bigger focus on that, and how you, obviously the integrity of the information that you're actually auditing in the end. So I think if it's that from that side, it's obviously probably large audit risks. So what happens is, to mitigate that, you do get in the cyber guy. So I think the UK is following, I think, what I've seen, and people bringing in those guys to see what is our playing field, what does it look like at the moment, and once they've had it done, what can we do to maybe make it a bit better.
I think that access to knowing there's cyber competence in a firm such as this, a few years back, wasn't common sense. I don't think you knew that this is the firm you can ask to get that assessment, to get that feedback. And I think that education part is really important. And key takeout though is cyber, you're secure and you think you're fine until you're not.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things as well, which is, especially with the rollout of AI now becoming so front of mind, I think just the cyber tests that have been done also now have to keep up, kind of thing. So I think it's no longer going to be that email that comes and that a prince has emailed you and you've got a whole bunch of money, please click on the link attached, or it's going to be someone by mistake putting stuff into a chat bot or something, which isn't a chat bot. I think that's the next
much more sophisticated.
So I think it's one of those things you have to stay, as AI and all those systems progress, you sort of have to keep up on the cyber side as well.
Imagine going to a cybersecurity AI conference. Good luck trying to summarize that one. And then just general takes from the trip there. I think those are three big takeouts. You could probably do a 3-hour podcast as a series of 20 different episodes on each one of them, but that's succinctly summarized.
Give Cherie any ideas for what's coming up?
I'd quite like to. General takeouts and sentiments.
I think some of the discussions we had there with not just people, I think not just the accountants and audit, but the people who are supporting the industry as well with their products and tech that gets in the tech stack. I think it's just the amount of innovation that's out there, and what people are trying, I think is amazing. I think you see a lot of these products get rolled out into the market, and you think, sort of, I can see where it comes from. But if you start talking to people in the industry and what they're working on, you're just blown away by almost, you get into people wanting to look at almost live audit kind of thing. So have almost like a plug-in kind of thing, so that any out of the ordinary transaction, so you have AI watching in the background, and they say, listen, we've seen a payment or a new source of income come in, and flag that kind of thing. So these are sort of the discussions which obviously aren't on the stage, because obviously people are working on them and stuff, but I think it's just amazing to see how people are.
That is pretty innovative corridor banter.
Yes.
That is, sure.
Obviously, we have to avoid talking about any Rugby World Cups and stuff, being in the UK. Still awkward. But yeah, no, we hand out lots of nice little socks and stuff, so with the little Springbokkies on, so they can feel better. So
I'm pretty sure that didn't help anybody feel better.
No.
we were there when we played the UK, actually, in a particular audit and advisory firm. They were actually really good sports about it. South Africans would have sulked a lot harder. I can tell you that. We would have been terrible. I can say this: the English are good losers. I'll give them that. Not at cricket. That's a different story. What's coming up next for ResourcePlus? I believe Cherie is jet setting somewhere else in the world.
She will be out in the UK later in this year. The next thing up for us is going to be Vegas There's the ACPA conference. Actually, it's quite nice. Some of the guys at Digital Accountancy Show that had a chat to, met up with, are also going to be out there. So it would be good to touch base with the familiar faces there. And then after that, again, back in July in the UK.
Sure. And from an industry standpoint, any big milestone events coming up locally or abroad? Anything anyone needs to be particularly focused on at the moment? Junior ends? Or...
I think everyone's focused on tariffs and globally, and I think locally, I think everyone's watching the VAT percentage movement. So I think generally, I think everyone's got their focus there. I think once that's sort of settled, I think there'll be a lot more clarity after that.
No such thing as business as usual.
No.
That certainly has become the case. Brendon, well done on a successful trip.
Sure.
It is good to have you back, and look forward to more updates.
Yes.
And maybe even diving in deeper on some of these topics.
Yes. I think AI,
if there's an interest.
There's definitely hours there. And just how I think it's now, I think the next 12 months to 18 months, I think there's going to be a lot of movement, what people are doing, and being able to take
so much
from an idea to an actual action point in like a day rather than weeks kind of thing.
You could talk about this every week and you'd have a new talking point.
Well, thanks
maybe we should challenge ourselves to doing that.
Yeah, thanks to ChatGPT, we probably could.
This has all been AI. We don't really exist.
I wish.
Brendon's awesome. Thank you so much.
Good to chat. Appreciate it.
Cool.